Harare Ndandu Ngangu.
Good morning to everyone. Welcome to the city of Houston. Arabi, Nadada, Dudi. Good morning, everyone. That was my attempt at Swahili, and I don't really speak it that well yet. However, the last time that I unknowingly spoke it was quite some time ago in meditation, what some people may call speaking in tongue, and it just flowed from me freely. I was like, what in the world am I doing? And I've done it several times. And this language, I was like, it felt familiar, it sounded familiar, but I did not know what I was saying until I listened to a speech from the late Makafuli, President Dr. Makafuli. And he was the president of Tanzania in Africa. And he recently passed away about 3 or 4 weeks ago of a heart condition. If you don't know about him, he is a doctor of chemistry. He was a brilliant man, did lots of things for Africa, staying firm in a lot of positions in which he believed in for himself and his people. I won't mention it here, but you can easily look it up online. But anyway, when I first saw him, I said, well, he looks familiar. He looks like my biological father. And I was like, wow. And then I listened to his speech. I was like, that was the language that I was speaking that I didn't know I was speaking. And even though I said it, here a couple of times, different things, I'm trying too hard when I'm speaking it now, but when I'm in meditation, it just flows from me. And I was like, that's my language. Anyway, my point being that sometimes God, the ancestor angels, leave breadcrumbs. In other words, they leave hints. And a long time ago, I wanted to go to ancestral.com, look into my history, my bloodline, and see where I'm from, where my ancestors are from, what tribe I belong to. And then I changed my mind, not because I was afraid that someone's going to get my DNA, because if someone wants your DNA, it's so easy to do. You don't need blood, you don't need to go to ancestral.com or anything like that. It's so easy to get. So that wasn't the fear. My point was that I wanted to be led. I wanted to feel it spiritually, and then I want them to find me. And in other words, I got the message that they will find me, not to go looking, that they will find me when the time was right. And lately I've been getting those breadcrumbs, and I'm not going to look for it. I'm not going to push it. I'm just going to let it happen, because it is happening and it's going to come forth soon. So that was my point of that, just following the breadcrumbs. And of course, if you want to go to ancestry.com, I'm not sure how accurate it is, or wherever you want to go for a DNA test to see where your tribe is, go for that as well. But I've chosen a different route. And I don't know about you all, but this year we've had a lot of rain. And we didn't have a lot of pollen this year. I was like, wow, even though, I saw hints of it here and there, we did not have a lot of pollen. And just the other day, and I've done some videos with the pictures in it, we had, a couple of weeks ago, we had so many blossom dogwood trees, more than I've ever seen in a while. I mean, they were everywhere. It looked like snow. Even though it was spring, it looked like snow was in the trees. I've never seen that many before. And even in my neighbor's yard, she used to have about 10 roses on her bush. She had 20, 25. I mean, nature is just thriving. And the redbirds are really big this year. And there were so many bluebirds and yellowbirds. And I usually have maybe 1 or 2 owls. I've seen like 3 or 4, or heard them different. They don't let me see them too much, but they have different sounds. So I know that there's more than 2 now. So that's been kind of interesting, watching how prosperous nature is. They're not really trying really hard. It's just that it's just really thriving. And I presume that they are just relaxing and observing humans and how much we are struggling with everything that's going on now. Why is nature thriving so much and humans are struggling? And we're supposed to be the superior beings. Just something to really think about. Life is really prosperous. Nature is really prosperous right now, and we are nature, so we should be too. And so what are we doing different? What are we doing wrong? I don't speak of everything I know, of course, and I don't give all the answers that I think I know or guesses, but it's just a question that I pose for anyone that's watching, to think for yourself. What do you think that nature is doing right that we as humans are not, really? And, go into, thinking about pollen, while I'm going to go into the next subject, is that pollen hasn't been plentiful that I could see because we have a lot of rain that washed it away. But yet the flowers are blooming so much. And, usually it takes, the male, the female to produce. That's what we've been taught anyway, is how we bloom. It's because there was a male and a female, and then you create the baby, and it blooms, it grows up. Nature does it every year. They get a little bud and it grows and lives, and then it dies. There's no fear in it. That's just the cycle of life. They don't even struggle with it at all. But this year, why did it happen so much? And then it comes to this conclusion of a lot of talk about, babies not being born, or babies being born with their sexual organs but not classified as male or female. And as they get older, maybe 4, they'll be able to decide. And a lot of people have issues with that. And understandably so, because we were taught a certain way. And who decides the narrative and everybody goes along with it is the question. And I have no argument about that. That's the way I see life as well. Identify as a female and identify as heterosexual. But I don't have an issue with anybody else's sexuality unless it involves me. So why is it even important, really? And so thinking about that, I spoke to a few friends or associates, and I said this. I said, don't be surprised someday, and someday soon, we're not going to be able to identify male from female, and it's going to be one bathroom without saying male or female, and it's going to be against the law for someone to say it is a male or female. And some people were like, yeah, I can believe that. And some people were like, what? And my sisters be like, Angela, you're out of your mind. You come up with these really weird things. Like, well, that's just how I am. I've always been like that. But now here we are today, and that's where we're headed, and that's kind of where we are. And a lot of people have a lot of problems with that. And like I said, I can understand why. And it's just a really touchy subject. Well, for me, I would want to identify my child as male or female. And I can understand, I wouldn't have an issue with someone else not wanting to, even though it forms the issue of who are we really? How are we going to be able to really produce? Or are we going to be produced? Are we headed to a situation of transhumanism where it's not even going to matter, whether we can produce, because we are so advanced that we could get any child we want by any means that we choose to in a lab or create it? Is it going to even matter? And we are allowing so much to happen without using our own kind of critical thinking and common sense, and just being able to just let go of material things and taking in the hints that's given to us, that we can't really push forward of fighting against what's to come, really. So my point being is that is happening because we let it happening. Everything that's happening is because we don't understand what's going on. So it's here. And are we going to be able to accept it? Some of us, yes, and some of us, no. Can we do anything about it? Most of us, well, it looks like we're not going to be doing anything about it. Hopefully, the ones that decide that they are going to be able to identify themselves as male or female or can stand firm in that and know who they are. And I think the main issue is going to be deception. That's the main issue before and now. And with that, if we don't know, there will be no deception because it won't matter. But, after not being able to identify, and if you want to change your sex or get rid of a sexual organ, etc., etc. But it's a very touchy subject, I know. But I did want to just bring that forward because everything that man has created, every invention, everything that we see was created from observing nature. And something as beautiful and as simple as a bird was once watched and observed, and that person probably wondered why humans couldn't do that, and an airplane was created. Just one simple example. Everything comes from nature. We didn't create anything there's nothing new under the sun. We just keep recreating ourselves. And so I don't think that it's going to be much of a fight put forth with this issue. I already knew it was coming. I mentioned it to a few people, and it doesn't, I don't think, affect me, but it will probably affect my children. How, I don't know. They have friends that it doesn't really matter whether they're gay or straight. One of my best friends in high school was a gay male. It didn't even matter. I didn't even think about it because his sexuality really didn't matter to me, even though back then it was more discriminated against, but not by me. And he told me much later, and even now, growing children, I've been around a lot of children, or helped with a lot of children that when they were born, they had more feminine ways without any influence. And then they chose to play with certain female toys. And even though the father figure or the uncle figure tried to give them boy toys, it didn't matter. They still grew up liking female toys. And I've seen it happen repeatedly. that's what they wanted to play with and be and behave as such. So some people say it's a choice. Yes, it's a choice, but you can't really force it upon someone for whatever reason. And, I've seen it in like 2 or 3 different families, and they have more than one child. And in one case, one have 3, one have 4, and another has 2. And there's only one child that turned out that way. So it's not maybe perhaps what the mother ate or her environment or anything, because it was basically similar. So what else was it? So just something to think about, not giving the answer for anyone, but just something to really think about. I think originally we didn't come here as male or female, just another thought. I don't think angels or God, even though some people say he, and even myself say he, God, as a male or female. But in reality, I don't think God is a male or female. I don't think there is a sex to God. I don't think he reproduced, because that's what we use for sexual organs, to help produce children or offspring. God don't need that. So God don't really have a sex. Angels don't really have a sex. So even though we are human beings and we come here with this suit to perform certain missions, we don't really have the mechanisms to to understand how someone could be classified as asexual, but not asexual, but neither male or female, or both, or neither. So it's going to be some interesting times, and it may be even difficult to accept, but we have allowed so much to happen that the reset button, the transhumanism, is coming forth, because some of us are very easily influenced or persuaded, if not by materialism or fear, or not really understanding. It's really difficult to say. And it's going to be, like I said, some interesting times. And I don't think there's really anything to be in harm's way about, but a lot of things that have been said to transpire or happen is happening. I'm not mentioning any type of religious beliefs or thoughts, but it's funny how some of those things are being played out now, and people aren't really paying attention to that. I'm not going to mention what I'm talking about, but just something else to just think about. Just those couple of things to think about, if you will, while I'm talking about following breadcrumbs, and basically just thinking about our influence in the world and what we're paying attention to, and observing nature. And how that's, if we understand nature, if we observe nature, and we go within ourselves and understand ourselves, because we live really inside of ourselves. Our outside world is just a suit to work while we're here. But, have you really sat down to really understand or look at yourself? And I mentioned one way to do that is by looking at a mirror and just getting lost looking into your eyes. And sometimes it's a really scary thing to do that, but it's easy. It's very easy to concept to do, but for some people, very difficult to do. But anyway, that's it for now. Get out, enjoy nature, study nature. You will learn so much about yourself and life. Anyway, thanks for visiting the city, and I hope that you all will have a very beautiful Saturday. Take care.